I want to take a moment to talk with you about the Classroom Partnership Agreement. I used to be an administrator for many years, actually something like 12 years total. And one of the things that we worked really hard at, I think probably one of the most challenging parts of the job, was to help adults learn how to work effectively with one another. Let me kind of share a little bit about my perspectives around that. Sometimes we make an assumption that because we're grown-ups, we know how to communicate effectively. We know how to say what it is that we're thinking and we're feeling. We know how to not take things personal. We know how to problem solve. We know how to read each other's minds, because sometimes that's what happens. We think that because my work ethic is the way that it is, or that I see that there's a problem happening over here with two children, that I'm going to automatically assume that you're going to know what to do or what I would do. And so sometimes what happens is we don't want to ask help from one another. So I'll give you an example. When I'm a classroom teacher, when I was a classroom teacher, sometimes I'm still in the classroom, I will say to someone, can you help Joshua and Amanda over there? They seem to be having a struggle with, I don't know, figuring out how to pick up the blocks, whatever the situation is. I feel comfortable now being able to ask other people very specifically what I need. Excuse me. So if someone's in the classroom with me, and I will tell you that that didn't come, I didn't know how to do that in a way that didn't sound aggressive when I first started teaching. Because I did make an assumption that if I'm sitting over here with a small group of kids and two children are struggling in the block area, or there's something going on in the bathroom, like, why wouldn't you get up and go help them? Right? It's totally where I used to come from. And so I had to learn how to effectively communicate in a way that sounded respectful and inclusive, and that we were working together as a partnership, not like I was the classroom teacher and I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So that whole process, when I was an administrator, of helping adults learn how to do that took a lot of time, because we make assumptions when we put adults in classrooms together. And not even just classrooms, but you might have specialists coming inside. You might have, other folks who are providing some level of support. That we make assumptions that we're just going to know how to work together. And I love to use this sort of perspective. I really believe that teachers it's sort of like what are they, an arranged marriage? I think that's what it's an arranged marriage. You bring a couple people together and you say, you get to be married to each other. And I mean, we know, if you're married or ever have been married, how difficult it is to live and be with somebody in a particular space and be able to support one another. It doesn't always work. It doesn't always come naturally. Oftentimes, we make, as I mentioned before, too many assumptions about what I think you should do, what you should already know, or that there are just some things that I don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, and so I'm going to make my own judgments around that. What happens, okay, when we ignore it, when we don't create an opportunity for mutual engagement at the beginning of the school year, is that time and time again, we have miscommunication. We are now making assumptions. We are now taking things personal. We are now creating a story. So now I'm creating a story about you because I don't understand what you are expecting of me. So now I feel like I'm basically here to clean. I love to read to kids, but you've never asked me. And when I've offered, you tell me no, no, no. So it's like all of these things start to roll into this big thing that I call resentment. And it doesn't happen overnight. We start off with good intentions. We start off with, yeah, this is going to be a great year, but you actually need to have conversations about who's doing what, when do they do it, how do we have conversations, what if I don't agree with you, okay? And let me give you a quick one real quick. one of the things that is not okay with me as a classroom teacher is when I ask a child to do something. So when I say to a child, come, let's get your shoes on, okay? And there's another adult sort of hovering around. Even as a consultant, I do not like this, so you know. I say, come, let's get your shoes on. And the adult who's hovering around says, Isela's telling you to do something. That to me makes like the hairs on the back of my neck just stand. And the reason is because what I'm trying to do in everything that I say and in everything that I do, I'm trying to create a relationship with the child. And the way that I create a relationship with the child is that I say what I mean what I say, and I follow through 100% of the time. That's not the only way. There's a million ways. But what I'm helping children learn is that I mean what I say what I mean, and I follow through 100% of the time. There's a sense of safety in knowing that. But when an adult, and it's 99% of the time, it's because they're trying to be helpful to me. They want the kid to listen to me. Sometimes when I come in as a consultant, it's like, I want him to be respectful to you. So there's lots of reasons why someone might do that. But what happens then is the child it no longer becomes about he and I, it becomes about, the power, who has the power. And so that's one of those things that if I was a classroom teacher and someone did that, or let's say someone, did that in the classroom while I was in there, and I didn't say anything, what would happen is over time, if I could let it go and just let it be what it was and just not take it personal, that would be fine. But what happens, a lot of us, sometimes there are things that we become very critical of, things that just annoy us, that grind at us, that triggers us from like something my husband does or my mother did or whatever. We have all kinds of stories as to why we become attached to things. So that particular situation where a teacher says, Isela's telling you to get your shoes on, I'm triggered. I'm like, no, this is between he and I, but I never say anything. And so over time, I'm triggered each time. I'm annoyed each time. But see, the thing is I don't know how to have a conversation with you in a way that doesn't sound like I'm trying to be mean, or I'm trying to disrespect you as a classroom teacher or whatever. It's like sometimes fear gets in the way of us having those conversations, that if I would have just had the conversation, then we would be okay. But then what happens is we go into March, we're at March, April, May, and now I'm so annoyed and I'm so frustrated and I'm so all of those things that we've gone so long without dealing with the issues, we've forgotten what the issue really is, because now everything is exasperated by 15, 20, 30, 40%. Now I'm looking through the lens of resentment and irritation. Okay, does that make sense? So the longer you put off something, and again, I don't want to dismiss the fact that the reason why we often put it off is because we have fear. We have fear about having honest conversations. Sometimes we don't have the language. Sometimes we come off too aggressive. Sometimes we're not very good at being listeners. So we want to come in and say what we want and think and feel without giving the opportunity for them to be reflective of what they think and feel, because there's always two sides to the coin, always two sides. Okay, so in that situation, as I shared with me asking a child to get their shoes on, right now, come, let's get your shoes on. And the teacher comes in and says, you need to listen to Isela. She's telling you to get your shoes on. That situation right there, she has good intentions, right? But if I'm looking through the lens of she doesn't think I know what I'm doing, or she, if I'm coming through the lens of her seeing me as inadequate, that he's not going to listen to me, that's going to create some animosity between us if I hold on to that belief system. But even when I told the story initially to you all, my perception was that she was trying to be helpful. Like she really just wants the child to do what I said, right? And so your perception of it all is going to skew your experience of it. And this is why communication is so critical in the classroom. I'm going to go back to what I said, probably 3 times. I don't know, once, twice, 3 times. Don't make assumptions. Beginning of the school year, we make assumptions that we're all on the same page. We make assumptions. Now, sometimes magic happens. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes some paraprofessionals come together and teachers come together, and even, you know, whoever's in there, you've got specialists, you've got special educators, you've got OT, whoever's in there. They come together and they gel nicely, and it feels like a beautiful marriage, right? That magic happens. Sometimes that happens. And if you're an administrator, don't undo that. So one administrator said to me, she goes, Isela, these two work fabulously together. So I put her over here and I put her over here so that they can be fabulous with other people. And I'm like, that's not how marriage works. Like, I'm fabulous with my husband. We're really good together, but I don't go find someone else and because now we got marriage down. We got it down packed, so now we're going to be perfect at marriage. That's not how it works. So when magic happens, keep the magic together, okay? Keep it together, because magic doesn't always happen. Marriage, like the classroom, takes practice. Working effectively with one another takes practice. And so when I was an administrator, I took so much time trying to help people learn to communicate effectively, to develop goals, to learn to have fun together. I'm not saying you have to kumbaya with each other. I'm saying you have to figure out how to be sort of married together in this space, because you are teaching children how adults communicate, how they work together, how they celebrate with one another, how they can be responsive to each other's needs. You're teaching children that by how you engage and interact with one another. So the classroom partnership agreement was sort of birthed from that, okay? From me helping and me being in classrooms and having the experience as an administrator. In the beginning of the classroom partnership agreement, you have to start with strengths, okay? You have to start with strengths. Everybody has a strength. I don't care who you are. You're good at something. And if you don't think you are, you got to figure out what it is. And excuse me, for some teachers, and I'm going to call you all teachers, okay? Every school has a different. One of the schools I work with, they call them guides, and then, you know, some schools have different structures. And so I'm just going to say, if you work with or in and around children, I'm just going to call you a teacher, okay? The adults who work with children. So everyone has a strength, and I need to know, if I'm working with you, I need to know what your strengths are. I need to know what you like to do. I had an assistant that I worked with for many years. She was awesome at reading with kids, like awesome. She used to do incredible storytelling. She was amazing. And the teacher that she worked with before me didn't even know that, because she was the lead. She was the one who was supposed to read with children. She was the one who was going to teach the lessons. And I heard her reading one afternoon with kids, and I'm like, how did I miss this? And it was an aha moment for me. It was like, I should know what you like to do, and I should know what you're good at, so that we can incorporate those opportunities and those experiences in our day, so that you feel good and you feel like you're contributing to the greater good. And so tap into whatever your strengths are. So that's the first part of this, is teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3, however many teachers there are. You can make another sheet of paper and add more people. But what are your strengths? What do you like to do? What do you do well? The next part is, it says here to discuss roles and responsibilities. I will tell you something about this. One of the biggest issues that happens in classrooms is when there is a misunderstanding of who's supposed to do what. That who's supposed to do what gets people all mixed up. I'm not supposed to do the assessment piece. That is not my job. That's your job as a teacher. I'm not supposed to take anecdotal notes. Or I don't change diapers because I'm the lead teacher. Only paraprofessionals change diapers. I don't clean the tables because that's what, and I have to tell you, I say it with attitude because I do have a little bit of attitude with it. I'm not even gonna lie. I was an administrator, I was a director, and I was a teacher. And I'm one of those people that I'm on the floor scrubbing if there needs to be scrubbing. I'm mopping floors. I am in the bathroom changing diapers, because changing diapers isn't the process of changing diapers. I don't like changing diapers. I've never liked changing diapers, but it's not changing diapers. It is connection. It is having an intimate moment with a child. It is him or her, they trusting me. It's me having, maybe I said this already, but one-on-one. this one-on-one experience with this child, that with 18 other kids in the classroom, it's really hard to have this one-on-one. So this time right now is an experience for the both of us, that I can connect. So it's not changing diapers. It's more than that. And when we move through the process like this, we miss that boat altogether, how important that experience is in changing diapers. So whose role and whose responsibility is this? Because this again becomes a seed for resentment to build. Okay, so teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3, each talk about, what are my roles and responsibilities? What are yours? What are yours? Does it need to be that way? Does somebody subscribe that, or is that the right word, subscribe? Is like, did somebody say, this is what you need to do, and this, you're the one who's responsible for that, and only you? Or is that something that we've just kind of created in our head as, that hierarchical position, and these are the responsibilities that each one of these have? Okay, so have that conversation. Next one is communication styles and experiences. Now, this is the one that's super tricky. And I usually do a full-on training about communication styles, because I will tell you that many people are passive aggressive, or use passive aggressive strategies and approaches in their communication, instead of having honest conversations of what it is you want or think or feel. And so this provides an opportunity for you to share how you communicate. Okay, and you got to be honest here, because sometimes people will say to me, I'm a really effective communicator. I say what I think and feel, but then like 2 seconds later, I hear, well, if somebody would pick up the stuff that needs to get done, then we wouldn't have any of these problems. Well, who is somebody? That's passive aggressive. Or when someone says, oh, I didn't know, but they did know. I didn't know all the details, so I didn't say anything, but you did know. That's passive aggressive behavior. And so there are lots of things that we do that we're not honest about. So it's important for us to get honest about how we communicate, so that we're very clear. Like, I'm afraid of conflict. I don't like conflict. Okay, so now that I know that about you, you don't like conflict. What happens when there is a conflict? What should we do? What should we say? Like, how do we have this? Do we meet on a weekly basis, maybe for 10 minutes just to touch base? Should we have a phone call once a week and talk about, how the kids, how things are going, what happened, what you think went well, what didn't go well? Like, what are the ways that we are going to ensure that we are addressing what needs to be addressed in a way that is responsive to our communication needs, or even some of the obstacles that we have? Okay, so like, I'll give you another quick example. A lot of people don't like conflict. So then what happens is, okay, let's say I don't like conflict. So then I get upset, and then I don't say anything, and I start to shut down. Okay, I start to shut down. And then I start to shut down, and I disengage, and I kind of do what's being asked of me, but I'm not fully engaged. I'm holding on to some resentment. I'm really holding, I'm holding on to the disagreement or the perception that whatever happened. Okay. And so I feel it as a consultant. When I walk in the door and there's a rift between the adults, or there's animosity between, or there's miscommunication, I feel that within 5 minutes of being in the room. Okay, so I can tell, and if I can tell as a stranger, kids who they rely on their sense of feeling and their intuition as they engage with adults, know it. They totally know it. And so in that experience, knowing that I've kind of shut down, when we have this conversation, that's when I say, sometimes when I don't know what to say, I don't say anything, and I start to disengage, and I start to create stories in my head. That's being honest. And then I think that I did something wrong, or I don't know, so I don't want to get you upset. And so then I would say, in response to that, what can I do in that situation? So if you start to shut down, if you start to disengage, what can I do in that situation? What can I do? Can I say, hey, let's chat? Can I say, do I need to give you 5 minutes? Do I need to give you a day? Like, you just need time to process it. Maybe if I say, hey, are we okay? Do you want to have a conversation? Like, start to come up with ways to be able to smooth out those bumps. And you're gonna have bumps. okay? You're going to have bumps. Your temperament goes into it, your life experience goes into it. So you want to kind of come up with some potential resolutions or approaches when there are bumps, okay? All right. Another important thing on this page, it says, what information would you like communicated to you? This is important because so many times I'll get teachers say to me, well, she didn't tell me, I didn't know. We're not allowed to go to those meetings, so only the teacher can go to the meetings. And so she didn't tell me what the training was about or what the information was shared. Like, I don't know. So what information is important to you to be communicated? Here's another good example. In childcare programs, you have a morning opener person and then you have a closing person. Well, they're usually not the same people. And so in the morning, mom, dad, family communicates about the child. Kid has a day. At the end of the day, the parent's like, well, did this happen? Did that happen? Where's his jacket? I don't know. I didn't even know he came with the jacket. And so it's like, sometimes it's information about children, sometimes information that comes from the administrators, sometimes it's information at a training that I went to, and not everybody got to go. Sometimes it's just information from parents about a particular child that it would be helpful to me to know that, now he was in foster care and he's now at home again with mom. So it's like, that's information that you have to talk about what it is what do we agree upon in terms of sharing. Okay. That's a big deal. All right. And then it goes more into that next page where it says communication agreement. This is like, how will we listen to each other? How will you approach one another when we're frustrated? I kind of talked about all of that. So those are those questions. And I will tell you, this is long and it's not intended to do in one sitting. You want to do like one chunk and you want to take it with you and kind of either think about it or fill it in for yourself, because it's not something that you can just by the seat of your pants come up with if you've never really thought about these things. So it takes time to really understand what you, what is the best way to communicate with me? I don't know. Like, let me think about that for a minute and then come with it prepared so that you can share with one another. Okay. And then there's another section, and it's not the one I have right in front of me, but there's the section that I think is super important. Let me see if it's this one over here. It's the one that has the boxes about, it's this one, I think. Who does what, when, and where. Okay, so what that means is, and it's going to be different in everybody's classroom. So the document that I have created is just based on my experiences in classrooms at different schools. So you have like a welcome. So who does the greeting of children? If stands at the back door waiting for children to come, who does that? Okay, does it have to be the same person every day? Should it be, can that vary? Should it be? It's like, those are the questions that, so there's a part 1 and a part 2. And I will, hopefully you have both parts because it's super extensive, super important. But if you were, I can't even tell you which part is more important. I can't even tell you. But that second part where it's, let me open it up here. It says, so opening duties and responsibilities. Okay, so I skipped over that when I was just sharing with you. So the stuff like, if you have to fill bleach bottles, if you have to put the chairs down from the tables, you have to bleach those tables off. You've got to use the soap solution first, then you got to do the bleach solution. It's like, who does what? Okay. And is it always, like, seriously, is it always your job or is it always my job to do those things? If yes, then you two agree on that. If not, then how do we help each other? Okay. So that has to be a conversation. Please don't make assumptions. Please don't assume that people just naturally do this, because we don't. In general, people will either get into their routines and not think outside of that routine, or feel like, that's not my job. So you got to have these conversations. Next one is meeting and greeting children. That's what I went right to. So who's going to be the one to greet them at the door? Who's going to be the one to go to the buses? Who's going to be the one to welcome, to help them wash their hands? Who's going to be the one to then after they wash their hands, come over to circle time? Who's going to do that? Now, in a perfect world, we dance and we balance. We dance and we balance. You're there, I'm there. You're there, I'm there. We do that. But in the beginning, just like in a marriage, it's just trying to figure out what side of the bed are you sleeping on. You know, it's like, where do you like to, where do you put your laundry, your dirty clothes on the floor? Is there a hamper? You know, it's like, we're trying to figure out the little nuances that, so that we can learn to live together. Okay. And that's what you're trying to do. And I have all these questions. So work time, your center-based time. In a lot of schools, it's going to look very different. In some schools I'm working with, we're moving into the process of doing more open-ended, child-centered types of experiences. And so during that time, who does what? Who's going to be doing small group instruction? Who's going to be working with children? And what I call anchor floater model, where there's like a teacher who's sitting with children engaged, full-on engaged, building, constructing, talking, writing, all of those things. And then you have a floater who's also engaged, but they're also very well aware of where every child is. If someone needs help, if someone's in the restroom, you're aware, you're there. It's like that floater has the responsibility of making sure that everything is working out just fine, and that you can see where every child is and who they're working with. You can do anecdotal notes, you can do all of those things, but you're kind of at the level of, and you're not, I say it up here, but you're not just walking around. You're sitting in places where you can scan the room. You're sitting and you're engaging with children, but still very aware. When that other one who is the anchor, maybe they're doing a small group opportunity where children are going really engaged in building a structure, and they've got tape and the teacher is like really supporting that whole process, that she's also aware of what's happening, but not to the level of the other teacher. It's like she's really super engaged. So not at any time should a teacher not be completely aware. The issue is the level of engagement, okay? And when something happens in the corner of the room, this teacher who's the floater goes over and is responsive, and maybe she's needed over there. And then something's happening in the bathroom where someone needs help. So that means now I need to get up and I need to help that child. So it's like we're constantly doing this dance back and forth, but we want to be able to do that in a way that's smooth, okay? You also have to talk about that it's okay for us to ask each other for support. Can you take care of those two kids in the bathroom, please? So I'm going to do this group right now. And I would do this beforehand. I'm going to do a small group. And today what we're going to do is ... And so is there any way that you can do this group or take these kids outside during this particular time of the day? Okay, so you're making very clear about who's doing what, when, and how. So the next block is transitions. Who's going to transition? This is a big one. Kids should never wait. Kids should never wait. The 3 to 5 minutes is the max amount of wait time. So when you transition kids from outside inside to your circle time, someone's got to start singing immediately. Someone's got to start singing. Once the first kid sits down, we're going to just start singing. We're not going to sit and go, I'm waiting. Everyone needs to be sitting. We're not doing that. We just start off singing right away. So the other teacher is helping kids come in, helping kids wash their hands, and then feeding them to circle time, and we're already rolling. We're already going. We're pulling kids in. So I need to know, am I the one that's gonna catch kids? That's what I call it. Are they gonna catch kids, or is it gonna be this teacher? Or are we gonna flip-flop? You know, because I like doing circle time and she likes reading books. And I'm a really good singer. I play a guitar. So you should be the one to catch kids. You go get your guitar and you bring kids in, and then I'll take over and do the story or the lesson, the mini lesson for the day. So it's like, how are you going to orchestrate it so that you're supportive of one another? When we're doing circle time and I transition kids and I go, okay, if you are wearing red, you can go to the door. If you're wearing purple, show me your purple. You have purple, okay, you can go to the door. That teacher, the moment one kid gets up to go, that other teacher needs to be at the door. That teacher at that point starts to sing quietly as a transitional activity or to engage them somehow. So when I'm at the door and I'm waiting for them, I will go, let's take out your spiders. Take your spider out of your pocket. And we go, the itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. And so I start singing quietly at the door to help them transition. Wait time. So if you want to look at your wait time, you want to see the first time you transit, the first kid that gets there, you want to look at your clock. And then you want to count the last kid. That's your wait time. Okay, it's from first to last. And it should never, ideally, more than 3 minutes. No, should be no more than 3 minutes. And so you want to go to the door or wherever your transition is, and you want to start to engage or give them an opportunity, because this is where our behavior issues come up, because they're expected to wait, and little kids, they're not ready for that. They're not ready for long wait times. Okay, so circle time, group times, who's going to do what when. The classroom cleanliness and organization of the room, you have to have conversations about this. Okay, who's going to clean, especially now that we're really hyper aware of what needs to be cleaned. Who's going to do it? We were talking the other day about doing laundry for your sociodramatic play stuff. It's like, who's going to take it to the washing machine? Who's going to get it back? Like, that's all the stuff that you have to communicate with or communicate about in order to have those clear expectations of one another. Outdoor time, what are we doing when we go outside? How do we ensure that we're balancing out the classroom or the play yard? How do we engage with children? How are we positioning our bodies? What if there's someone needs to go potty? Is it you? Is it me? Or is it whoever's there with that child? It's like, these are all those things that we need to have conversations about. Okay. All right. So I am hoping that this helps. Okay, and I think I have 2 different versions of this communication agreement. I think I do. I have 2 versions of this. I am, if you want, some of you, this is a video that you're just going to automatically be given, and you can take a look at both versions. And then there are others that if you're watching this video and you want a copy of a partnership agreement, just email me at alessigroup@gmail.com, and Alessi is ALESI group@gmail.com, or go to the website Alessi Group at www.alessigroup.com. I just forgot my website. Anyhow, I wish you all well. I send you all love, and I hope that you are able to create a dynamic partnership in your classrooms.